Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. For me, it was
That's dramatic.
Sit up in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, wake up and go, oh, my God, the signature matches. I just realized that out of a dream state, and I went and had handwriting analysis done between the two characters, and that was a match.
Okay, next up, let's go to Loveland, Ohio. Russ, east of the Rockies. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, how you doing tonight, George?
Good, thank you.
Long-time listener. I've talked to you quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a question for your guest. A long time ago, I'm like 62 now, but when I was younger, there was a movie. I don't know who made it, but it was called The Legend of Jesse James. And I remember at the end that he had taken on the identity of a man by the name of Howard. And at the way that it ended, he got shot. And at the end of the movie, they were singing, and the man that day shot Mr. Howard and put poor Jesse in his grave. And I wonder if your guest had ever seen or heard that movie.
Not familiar with the movie. I'm familiar with the alias. In fact, in the James family collection of heirlooms and artifacts, there was a badge with the number 1000 on it, and it said Kansas City Police Department. So I called the records division to see if there were any criminal records that were filed on Jesse James, and it was surprising that there weren't. I thought, well, just for the heck of it, let's look into this badge and see, what that yields. And the head of the Employment Records Division sent me a letter stating that Jesse W. James worked for the Kansas City Police Department until 1921, and his partner was a Tom Howard.
That's weird.
Very strange.
That is strange. He kept his same name?
In his life in southeast Kansas, he lived as J.M. James. And what he did, he took the first name Jeremiah and split it in half, and he went by Jere, middle name Miah, Jerry Maya James. So that was his alias. But obviously he was still an undercover operative, a special police officer, and a railroad agent, and all these things that would have granted him easy access without ever having to buy a ticket to get on a train or, check his horse in the cargo bay or anything. Very clever way to get around incognito.
And he must have. He had 8 kids. He's got a lot of relatives out here.
Oh, yeah, lots of them. And they're split 3 ways. Some of them believe it was Jesse, some are neutral, and the others are adamantly opposed to it.
Do they know that they're related to him?
Well, the great-grandson who actually knew the man is aware that it was Jesse James. Anyone else removed from it, they just base it on the historical evidence and all the research I was able to compile in my book, Jesse James' Secret.
Let's go to San Francisco now, west of the Rockies. Hey, Patricia, go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, what a fabulous show, and Ron, such fine research.
Well, thank you.
Wonderful to listen to. I had to call to tell you a little bit of our family history from originally Minnesota. I used to like to say a horse ride away from Northfield because Jesse James slept in my great-grandmother's woods after they robbed the Northfield Bank.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked my grandfather, well, what did they do when they were out there? He said, oh, we left them alone. But they said they could see the fires burning, and they knew who it was.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't feel concerned about their own safety, huh?
Oh, no. They didn't want to bother them, but no, they didn't feel worried at all. They just said, oh, yeah, that's, Jesse James was out there. Yeah, they left everybody alone. They left them alone.
You got to remember, he was the son of a preacher, a well-mannered, non-tobacco, non-alcohol guy, and, he tried to live a righteous life the best he could.
Was this a business for him, Ron, robbing? Was that a business? So he, didn't just go break into homes and things. He did the big stuff.
Sure, yeah. And, it had to be part of a larger conspiracy, some organization that he was funding and helping people infiltrate the government and take on positions of authority. There was much more going on behind the scenes.
First-time caller, Tony's in Springfield, Missouri. Hi, Tony. Go ahead.
Well, good evening. What an excellent show. Hey, quick question before I get to a point here. What year did he supposedly die?
Well, it was supposedly in 1882, but we're saying 1935.
Okay, that confirms my dates is a little bit what I remembered here. My dad has talked to me many times about the James gang, the James brothers and all, and they used to come in and hide out down in Carter County, Missouri, at a little town called Grandin. Mm-hmm. And I believe it was my grandparents actually was where the contact was at. But we had a little different take on this guy. he was kind of considered as a hero. He would bring in stuff, groceries, food. He brought in stuff and was really good to the locals down there when he would come in and hide.
Well,
And
he knew which side of the bread it was buttered on.
yeah, somewhere I happen to think my dad had met him, but I reconsider on that. No, my dad's not that old, but he got that from my grandparents. That's where that came from, that he was really good to the kids and the people down there. He was a very friendly, well-mannered guy.
Yeah,
And he did hide a treasure down there that was in a cave, and the legend was is that it was covered with rocks and leaves and everything, and it was hid. And the whereabouts of it was supposedly it was down in the river hills, down in Current River. And over the years, I'm 51 years old, and over the last 50 years, this thing has started to open up a little bit, and it has become a bit of a cave. My dad checked it with a metal detector, and we found a tin cup down inside there, but we're not allowed to dig or do anything to go further. But supposedly there's quite a cache of silver hid in there.
Well, send me an email and tell me more about it, and we'll look into that, see if the homeowner or the landowner will let us investigate.
Quite an interesting story. So, yeah, we've got a little bit of background on that, too. But he really had a great reputation with the folks down in that part of the country where he felt safe. That was the place he came to hide.
Was he considered like a god, Ron?
Oh, I think he was a little bit larger than life. You know, he's a tall, thin, good-looking guy up on a nice horse, and he always dressed well and had his hair cut and trimmed neatly. So he was just the gentleman robber and had commanded a lot of respect. But I think he was also a high-ranking official in the Knights of the Golden Circle, so he commanded the respect.
Yeah.
Nobody would stand up against that group.
I recall a picture in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch saying, "Is this Jesse James' grave or not?" It was something like that. Mm-hmm. And their theory is that he might not have died when he was supposed to have.
Exactly. And that was the contention right from day one. They knew because there was a ruse a year earlier that this might be a fake. The detectives that came down from Kansas City didn't buy into it at all. And you got to think, Sheriff Timberlake took command of the crime scene. He had no authority. He was from a county, 2 counties away where the James farm was. He deputized the James gang members to take possession of the body. They never let any other authority have contact with the body. It went to the James home to be buried. So it was completely under the control of the James family the entire time. Even in 1902, when they moved the grave, it was entirely done by the James family. So, there was something they were covering up there.
Did he apparently stop robbing after that? After he faked this death, and then did he go straight?
Yeah, and I think maybe the real Jesse James had gone straight years before. I'm thinking about how much of a love story this is and how his wife probably put her foot down and say, "You're not running around with those boys anymore."
Enough is enough.
Yeah.
Let's go to Tom in Omaha, Nebraska on the wild card line. Tom, thanks for calling.
Yes. Well, I have no way of verifying this. It's family oral history. But allegedly, my great-great-grandmother was Jesse James' aunt.
Uh-huh.
Huh.
What's the family name?
Well, I don't know what her name was.
Uh-huh.
Now, my grandmother, her maiden name was Thomas, and she was from Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was younger, my mother would tell me about going down to visit Granny, and Granny would haul out the family album with the pictures of the James brothers, all the cousins, the gang, everybody.
Terrific. Love to see that. Wow.
And I don't know what happened to it. But she said that every time there was a claim that Jesse James was still alive, she'd fly into a rage. She says, "Jesse's dead. I cleaned him up for his funeral. Jesse's dead."
Well, there we go with the 3 Jessies theory again. Yeah.
And like I said, I have no way of confirming it. It's family oral history.
Well, it's always fun to do genealogy. You never know what you're going to find out, so I encourage you. And then maybe you'll put that photo out.
There is kind of a funny story attached to it. When my mother's last brother was born, my grandmother was unconscious in the hospital, and the hospital wanted to name the baby. And her father-in-law said, call him Jesse James.
Uh-huh.
So they named my uncle Jesse James.
There's another one out there then.
When my grandmother came up and found out, she was absolutely furious.
Oh, my, yeah. Hey, I just wanted to say, George, and for Tom, too, anyone who has these great stories and wants to get in touch with me, just go to my website, rjpastory.com, and send me an email. And if you're interested in more material on the book, there's the jessejamessecret.com website, too.
The organization he was part of, the KGC, does it still exist?
I think so. They announced in 1925, 26, in that time frame there, that they had disbanded, that everyone was aged. And
it wasn't the KKK, was it?
Well, the original name was Ku Klux, which is closed club, and that became Ku Klux. So, yes,
that's interesting.
I would say definitely linked to the KKK. And, that became a huge organization. There were 5 million members that publicly, wore their colors about this group.
You know what? There still may be.
Yeah, definitely.
They're just not as vocal as they used to. I remember back in my early news days in Detroit, I would hear stories that the KKK would want to march down a street in Illinois, for example, and things like that. Yeah. They don't do that anymore.
And when Truman was elected president, the KKK came out in Kansas City and chided him for not publicly stating he was a member, so he came to the meeting and made a public appearance,
So one day you're going to stumble across one of these caves in the cache of silver and gold, and you're going to be worth billions.
Well, let's see how that goes. I'm very encouraged that, we'll have some more finds and we'll do well as time goes forward. But really, the treasure is in this story. If you get a chance to read the book, it's really an amazing story with so many layers and characters involved, and just understanding, the myth of Jesse James. It's a fabulous story. For those who are sticklers for evidence and the empirical side of this, I did a presentation for the Forensic Science Academy in 2004, and now I've made this into a 50-page document that you can get at jessejamesforensics.com, and it goes through the specific points of evidence and the forensics of the case. It really proves it out.
Great job. Where'd you get the old pictures?
This is years of archival research, meeting other people who've been digging into history, and the forensics report that I just mentioned, jessejamesforensics.com, has hundreds of great photos in it, originals. I've got a timeline of Jesse with about 25 pictures from infancy to his old age.
Ron Pastore is just saying to us tonight that throughout the United States, there could be well over $1 trillion in treasure hidden away in various caves and places. It's an amazing story. Ron, thank you. The book, Jesse James' Secret. When we come back, we will talk about Satan.